Tuesday, the 13th? Yeah. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the March 13th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission, and I'll ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Mr. Snyder?
Here.
Mr. Meredith?
Here.
Ms. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Casali? Here. Mr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Rapone is absent. Mr. Larray?
Here.
Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. The next item would be approve the agenda. The one item I will strike is election of officers. I believe we need to have a unanimous body, although we may need to revisit that in the future. I'm going to be stuck here forever. No. With that motion, with that change, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item is approval of the minutes from February 27th.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. This evening, we have three items. First being site plan number 23-04, Maria D'Agostini for Cherry Creek regarding a spec building. Anyone who speaks, I'm going to need your name and your address. When you're done speaking, then fill it out on the little paper next to you.
Hello, Maria D'Agostini Lucasavage from GS Rue Salon, 38700 Van Dyke Avenue, Suite 200, Sterling Heights, Michigan, 48312. I'm here to present the Cherry Creek Unit 17 development. I'm going to pull it up here on the screen. It's on the screen. It's not on the screen. Oh, here we go.
The guys in the booth are asleep? Is that what's going on?
Do you have the screen visible in front of you? Are you seeing what's, okay, perfect. So this is approximately just shy of 22,000 square feet. It's at the north end of Shelby Parkway on the west-hand side. The west side of the building actually fronts the M53 overpass embankment. So the visibility from M53 is fairly limited. So because the elevations of the overpass are right in line with what I would call the roof line of this building. The intent is to have it complement that front radius drive as you're coming down Shelby Parkway. If you look at the elevations, the north elevation has glazing with masonry work and details, and then it's a concave elevation if you look at the footprint to kind of follow the radius of the road. Glazing all the way down, you can see the ribbon windows. It is zoned manufacturing, so there is going to be an overhead door on the west elevation and on the south elevation. But other than that, it's pretty cut and dry. We did the landscape plan to meet the intent of the right-of-way tree requirement. And there is a photometric that you'll also see attached that substantially complies with the township's lighting ordinance.
Okay, thank you. To the planner?
Yes, thank you. As Ms. D'Agostini said, this site is zoned HM, that's heavy manufacturing. This site is also master planned as light manufacturing. Those two designations are consistent with the proposed use of the property that the applicant is proposing. The speculative industrial building fits the design recommendations of the master plan and the heavy manufacturing zoning district. It's a very well-designed building. It's got good frontage along the street there. This site plan did not undergo a preliminary review, so there's a couple of corrections on the site plan that should be noted there. Besides that, there's some other items that I want to address with the Planning Commission too while you're here. The first comment is there's some north arrow orientation mix-ups on sheet SPL4 and SPL12. Those are just minor corrections. Something I noticed on the site plan is that there's a 50-foot conservation easement currently on the property, and the site plan notes a 30-foot conservation easement. So appreciate the clarification of that easement and how you're going to address that with the easement holder. For the required front yard setback, the site plan notes 85 feet from the center line, but since Shelby Parkway is a collector street as identified in our master plan, the required setback is 93 feet. The building at proposed is 83 feet from the center line of the road, so there will have to be a variance if you want to keep that setback distance. While we're on setbacks, the setback from the M53 expressway should be noted as 50 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. You'll meet that setback, it just has to be noted on the plan. And then for the overhead door on the western portion of the site, since it opens into the roadway, there'll have to be some sort of bollards or protection to keep people exiting and using that entrance safe. So that's also going to cut in the required 20-foot drive lane, so there'll have to be some modification there to address that concern. And then with the shared access to the property to the south, there ought to be a reciprocal access agreement for both properties that use that driveway. And with that truck well on the southern portion of the building, it looks like they'll be using the adjacent property to the south. I'd like to see that circulation kind of noted on the site plan too, so that we know exactly how trucks are going to be using that area. And with that truck well too, the master plan does recommend screening those areas from the public and service areas. So I'd recommend putting some trees just east of where that truck well is on that concrete island to satisfy the master plan recommendation for that area. Other than that, the building department noted that it appears that there's a handicap space at the southeasterly portion of the building. That'll have to be properly dimensioned out so we can make sure that it meets all the requirements for the ADA there. Besides that, I did get a comment from the Macomb County Department of Roads noting that the deceleration lane on the north entrance does not match the rest of the sheets. So that's had to be corrected and submitted to the Macomb County Department of Roads for review. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any problems with any issue with anything that was raised by the planner?
In one thing, all of the comments are well noted. One thing I did want to discuss with the Planning Commission is that there is a recorded conservation easement along the property, but in reviewing the master deed documents for the Cherry Creek development, there is no known criteria or restriction or even tax benefit that was granted at the time that these master deed documents were established. So as we understand it, and as our attorney advised to us, that there was not going to be an issue with encroaching on this easement because there was really no clear guidance in the master deed documents.
So there's a conservation easement that has no restrictions.
There's really, honestly, no language in the master deed. It's definitely something that needs to be vetted, but in speaking with the township, there was also no tax benefit granted for establishing this conservation easement that we were made aware of.
Okay. Mr. Kirk, do you have any comments?
I'd have to take a look at it, see what the language is. I assume it's just on an exhibit it shows, and then
It
no
was
language?
proposed on an original exhibit to the condo docs, but there's no supplemental information on the condo docs, and we'd be glad to vet that with the township's attorney and go through everything with the
take a look at
township.
it.
Okay. To the planner, do you think does this cause us pause before we act on this to get a clarification?
I think clarification on the easement would not really hinder the project at all.
Okay. All right, I'll bring it to the board for any questions for the petitioner or planner department. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Turn my mic on. I would approve site plan number 23-04, Maria DiAgostini, for Cherry Creek, Unit 17, vacant parcel number 23-07-14-101 2023-117, located on the south side of 24 Mile Road, east of the M53 Expressway, for a proposed speculative industrial building with an office, subject to the submission of final site plans addressing all Department and Planning Commission comments and approval of variances as necessary.
Support.
Moved by Turner, support by Snyder. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Commissioner Casale.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is site plan, and we have special land use number 22-43, Crystal Capelli for Taco Bell. It's become, and I'm going to call on our attorney, typically in this process, after we read the notice, I will ask if I'll ask the attorney if our notice met the requirements and whether the special land use is appropriate to this district. And I'm going to call on the attorney to address this, but it's apparent that perhaps it isn't, that the public hearing wasn't necessary, and he'll explain why. I know there's folks that have an interest in this. Anyone who's here is welcome to come up and address the body as we consider the site plan that but in terms of granting them some kind of special land use permission, that may not be a requirement that we can impose on the developer. Mr. Kirk.
Yes, this has been applied for a special land use and site plan approval. Upon review, I don't believe a site plan, special land use is required in this case. Prior to May of last year, fast food restaurants with drive-through required a special land use. However, that ordinance was changed in that it's only required if it abuts a residential zone property. In this case, the corner touches, but the word abuts defined in our ordinance is saying sharing a common boundary. So in this case, there is no common boundary to a residential district. So there's no need for special land use. However, they can proceed on site plan approval tonight.
Okay, very good. So how this will work is the petitioner will come up, address the body. I'll ask the planner for their comment, the planning department for their comments. The board will then ask questions of the petitioner, and then I will allow anyone who wants to ask any questions or offer a comment on the development. I'll then let the developer or representative answer those questions, and then we'll proceed with a decision on the site plan. With that, name, address, again, anyone who speaks, name, address, and then sign in when you're done.
I'm Sarah McGowan. I'm with the GPD Group. We're the architecture engineering firm for Taco Bell corporate, most of the Michigan stores. Crystal Capelli is here in the crowd. She's with Taco Bell corporate. She's the construction project manager for Detroit Metro, all of Michigan. So we're both here if you have questions after the presentation. So we're here to talk about the proposed Taco Bell at Shelby Township.
To make sure you speak into
My,
them.
and I forgot to say my address, I'm sorry. The official address is 520 South Main Street, Suite 2531, Akron, Ohio, 44311. For the company, speak up, right?
Maybe lower it just a tad and speak right into it. There you go.
The proposed Taco Bell is located at 56331 Van Dyke Avenue. I just have a few slides to kind of introduce you to the project. This is an aerial and a site photo from when I visited the property last year. The aerial from Google is not updated. It doesn't show the strip center that has the urgent care and the dry cleaners, but to help you kind of understand where this property is, I'm in a zone C2. These are proposed elevations for the Taco Bell, and they changed slightly communicating with staff. So I have an updated elevation that I'd like to show you. This one is all brick, so the tower is even turned to brick, and there are no accent colors. The purple has disappeared, and there will be no graphic art. So this will be very similar to what y'all will be having. So. This building is 2,278 square feet on the inside, and then there's a pay window and a drive-through pickup window. And there will be 20 interior seats with 10 outside in the patio. Here's just an overview of the site plan we are proposing. This is the zoomed in version, I guess. There are 19 parking spaces, 15 are allowed, required by code. It has 2 drive-through order points. From there, they'll merge into one and have the prepay window and the food pickup window. We have the bypass lane, and we'll be connecting to the adjacent properties access. So we'll not have our own curb cut along Van Dyke. Let's make sure I covered everything. And this is the proposed landscape plan. We meet the code, and I will get to, we're gonna add more landscaping as well further on in the presentation. I'm gonna skip over the special land use standards, okay. From the staff report, we have staff recommendations. They're recommending approval. The items were to remove the exterior artwork panels, which Taco Bell's agreed to, remove the purple light wall washer and purple accent. That has been updated. There is an addition of a screening along the west property line to have a 6-foot high landscape berm, have all the required landscaping that's required for that. That will help buffer between the back of the property where the drive-through is, the detention pond for the development, and then the residential behind that. So this is the elevation. If you'll have any questions, I'm happy to answer any, and so is Crystal. So.
Okay, thank you. To the planning department, the planner.
Thank you, Chairman. So as Ms. McGowan identified, the couple of issues that I had, this plan had undergone preliminary review, and we identified some of the deficiencies in the plan, and they have revised the plan and met all the requirements in the zoning ordinance. The only additional items that were revised since this afternoon was the client received a copy of my review, so they modified their plans further. The question was artwork that was proposed for the elevations. There was 2 panels, I believe, on the north facade and also on the south side of the facade. And I just, it would be up to the Planning Commission to approve something like that anyway. I didn't know what those artwork panels consisted of. Obviously, we had approved some sort of artwork for the Taco Bell at 23 in Van Dyke. So, further clarification, if you wanted to leave it or propose it with the Planning Commission, that would be something that they could still review and approve or not. The other item was the purple accent lighting, and also that would be up to the Planning Commission to approve that or not. But as far as the major 2 screening, again, they had came out on their own. I recommended that to further protect the residents to the west, and they're abiding by the major 2 screening. So I think that's admirable that they're going above and beyond of a requirement that's not necessary.
Okay, thank you. To the board, are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner?
one quick question on can you go to that elevation, the picture you had of the outside of the building? The color picture? I have a quick question.
Do you want
That one
this
right there, yeah.
Okay.
Looking at that, looks very similar to one you have in Plymouth. Now, that rust color, is that going to be brick? The one in Plymouth is metal. Is that going to be brick also, you
So
said?
that was one of the changes we made. So this one will have a brick tower.
That's what I
There will
thought you
be
said.
no metal panels for the
Okay.
tower.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do have a question. The hours of operation,
Taco Bell's proposing to be open 24 hours at this location. So,
okay. Is there any, would they?
they would, I guess, Crystal, if they were told they could only be open to a certain extent, I'd have to go back because I'm not with corporate, right? But I can get back with them. There's other locations nearby that will be open till, I think, 3 a.m. So I can't make that decision as
So
the representative. But
to the planner, so our ordinance allows, or to our attorney, allows for a 24-hour operation in this location?
Correct. We do not have hours of operations in the commercial districts. All we have is construction hours of operation.
Yeah, Mr. Kirk,
And since we aren't considering a special land use, it's not a condition we can impose on site plan.
but we're not considering a special.
No, since we're not.
Since we're not, okay, got
But
it.
I would like to add, I did a project that's down at where Detroit turns into Grosse Pointe. And we had to do a study for the drive-through of how many people came through around, that was that area, so it was a little different market, but it still was a market study. And it was not many cars after the fact, after midnight. It was more for the workers and the restaurant employees, late night, like hospitality, that go when they, in their shift, they'll come through, get food, or hospital workers get food on their way home. That's what the study ended up being. It was not like an endless line, late night food.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will, thank you. So no. If anyone wants to ask a question or comment, and then I'll bring the petitioner up after. Realize that, you can come on up, sir. Realize that what we're deciding, what we're considering this evening is the site that they're proposed and whether it fits in within the ordinance. In terms of the use of what they're proposing there, that's decided by the ordinance. We can't say, no, we don't like Taco Bell. We don't want a Taco Bell here. Okay?
Understood.
Just so, you know. Okay, go ahead. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. My name's Nick Lane. I live at 56260 Crimson. Regarding the special land use, I would have to ask, is there anywhere in the ordinance where it says a drive-through is a permitted use for a C2 zoning district?
It's a permitted use in the C2 district.
Because I'm looking at the zoning ordinance C2 B4, it says fast food carryout may include drive-through, subject to special land use requirement, section 4.27. There's no requirement here for abutting a residential property. In a separate section, it says abutting, but nowhere does it say a drive-through is a permitted use. In fact, it specifically references section 4.27 for complying with the special land use requirements. There's nowhere that says this is permitted. If you go to the C3 zoning district, it says that specifically that drive-throughs are permitted with no requirement for a special land use.
Okay. Okay, hang on. I'll let him address
It
this.
allows fast food, the only requirement would be to go to special land use if it abuts a single family.
Where does it say if it only abuts?
Since
Only if.
Since it's not in there, it's our opinion that it includes that.
I have the ordinance right here that has no
Not here to argue
limitation.
with you,
Yeah,
sir.
right.
Thank you.
This is the township's attorney.
I
and
understand
he's-
that, and he's saying something that's inconsistent with the zoning ordinance right here. I have it right in front of me. I can show it to you right now.
You may have a different interpretation.
It's not an interpretation, it's what it says. So the section he's referring to, 4.27, the heading starts, fast food restaurants may be allowed in C1, C2, and C5 business districts subject to the following. There's no reference to an abutting property. Down in section J, it says in the C2 district, fast food restaurants with drive-through lanes shall be subject to special land use requirement if abutting a single-family residentially zoned property. That doesn't say only if. It doesn't say anything if it does not abut a residential property. That's contrary to the heading of this section. That's contrary to the C2 zoning ordinance itself. Okay? The special land use is required for
Okay.
this.
All right, you've made your opinion of what.
And you're just
this
going
is.
to disregard me? Like,
Well, I'm going to say that the township employs an attorney who's had 30-plus years of doing real estate law, and this is his interpretation.
has there ever been a drive-through previously approved without a special land use
Again,
permit in a C2 district?
That's not about it, yeah.
I mean,
Again, this is a recent amendment to the ordinance, so I don't know if that case, I'm going to ask the planner.
We haven't had anything recently, but I'd have to check back. We have, other
The reason this is important, this is now the third different explanation I've had for why this site plan complies with this special land use. First, the first explanation was that, oh, this is on a separate parcel, so therefore it doesn't have to comply with the special land use. The next explanation I got was that this is adjacent to a Kroger, which is on a large shopping center site, and therefore it complies with the special land use. Now you're saying special land use doesn't even apply, out of nowhere. when I've had correspondence with the planning department that said to the contrary.
Okay. Well, this body's going to make a decision, and then they'll decide, what weight to give, the varying opinions, so.
Okay, thank you for your time.
James Olshelin, 7595 Crimson Court. I'm also the president of the HOA for Crimson Court. It's kind of a big deal. A couple questions that come into mind off the top of my head is where is the water from the pavement going to drain to?
No, I'll take the.
Do we know where the water is going to drain to? Because Crimson Court shares responsibility, maintenance costs, et cetera, for the detention ponds that are between the proposed site and the Crimson Court. Now, there may not, I don't know, I'm not an expert on that stuff, but as far as a distinct border, maybe not, but it's clear line of sight between our two pieces, between the Crimson Court and their proposed Taco Bell location is a detention pond. I mean, it's a clear line of sight, which is why some of our residents are a little concerned. So I don't know how that gels out or works out with the special use. But I would like to know where the water's draining to, because if it's going into the detention pond, then that directly conflicts with our interests as well. What type of, it's my understanding you're proposing roughly a 6-foot visual barrier, similar to what is immediately to the south, which is Beaumont. If it's going to be operating 24/7, obviously at night, I'd like that to be a little bit more extensive, perhaps revisited to prevent a good, not only visual but also auditory barrier, because our residents are concerned that that Taco Bell at that location will bring in quite a bit of noisy traffic at different times of the year, different times of night. So we'd want to have that addressed. And at least at this point, this is about the only two things that I have concerns with. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to comment? The gentleman that spoke, if you would sign, could you sign in, please? Yeah.
Short. Hi, I'm Julie Smith, 7799 West Pearson. I just wanted to comment on what he was saying about the berm. I am directly behind the Kroger facility, and when they built the berm, it wasn't very tall, like on the Target side. So one of the residents requested that they build on top of the berm a wall. And if you could look behind Kroger, on that side street next to where Taco Bell is being proposed, there's on the berm, there's a wall. And I live that's my backyard. It's very nice. And that could help the people in Crimson Court to not have to see anything on top of the berm. There's trees as well, but there weren't enough trees to really have any kind of a visual blockage. But the wall is very nice. So I just wanted to comment that that might be something Taco Bell could consider putting up with the berm, on top of the berm.
Okay, thank you.
Will you please sign in,
Ma'am, could you sign in, please?
miss?
Ma'am? Yeah, thank you. Anyone else wish to comment?
How's everybody doing? William Spitz, 8300 East Pearson, Shelby Township. We had a Taco Bell try to come in there on the East Pearson corner last time, and we had issues with the drive-through. I still have an issue with the drive-through because now you're just on the other side of Van Dyke. Instead of the east side, you're on the west side. This 24 hours is ridiculous in my opinion. All the other stores around us, we have Qdoba, we have Penn Station, and we have Savory Sliders. They all close between 9 and 10 p.m. You're proposing a 24-hour operation. I do not want people hanging around at 24 hours driving through our congested area as it is, and especially at all hours. You are right adjacent to West Pearson, which is residential. I do not understand your reasoning saying that they don't need any special privileges for a drive-through. That is a major issue, and you need to readdress it and look into it with much more in depth, because this is unacceptable in any fashion, and you all should realize that. You all live in this township, and you know what happens when you have a 24-hour system going on. And I will address, yes, McDonald's is at 26 and Van Dyke on the very corner. They are not a block and a half away into the residential areas. Even though it's commercial, residential is all around it. Just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment? Going once, twice? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Or actually, I'll ask the petitioner to come up. The first, the water drainage
Yes.
question.
So let me go back in the. Okay. So this is the second parcel for this development. So this is the same landlord, same development. As you can kind of see a snip of the building from the strip center that has the urgent care, and then it has the pond. So those 3 parcels are owned by the same developer. The developer came and developed the strip center and built the ponds in the back for both these 2 properties. So this property already has stub-out connections and the stormwater pipes installed for us to be able to design to connect to the stormwater. There's a covenant for this property that it will connect to the stormwater. There is, when it was designed, an impervious, and I don't know off the top of my head, but we will meet all the design requirements that were used to design the pond. Like when you design, you can only have so much impervious, and we'll make sure we keep to that, and we'll check the calculations, and that will be part of our engineering submittal to the township. So,
Okay. And then do you wish to comment on the berm and the sufficiency of its
sure, we
sound and
can.
auditory and-
So staff is recommending a pretty thick berm right here. They also recommended that will help a lot with the shielding of everything. There's also the built-in berm already with the going up to the detention. So this property sits lower than the berm that goes up. I wish I had pictures. So I'm 5'4", and I had to look up when I did the site visit last year, I think back in May. So it will have, but we will follow the screening requirements, and we will provide a buffer. And then towards the 24 hours, Taco Bell Real Estate has asked that it be 24 hours. They use McDonald's as the reasoning why they requested the 24 hours. It helps the lighting. Will be for security, and they'll always be staffed. My past world life, we all have past lives. I did 24/7 gas stations, and so we had a lot of data of how it was safe, and I know it's near a neighborhood, but that is what they're requesting, to have it 24 hours. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions or comments from the board, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before I do that, I want to clarify a couple things with our attorney. Mr. Kirk, there's been some discrepancy on what exactly is a C2. I'm definitely not an attorney, but in your opinion, this does meet the ordinance of a C2, correct?
That's correct. The language doesn't mirror what's in C3, but the language says fast food carry-out may include drive-through, subject to special land use requirement. The only special land use requirement is if it abuts a residency zone property.
Okay, you answered both of my questions, so. I guess I'd like to ask the lady a real quick question. Are you open to putting a faux brick wall on top of the berm like we did, like they mentioned at Kroger?
I cannot agree to that, being
You're open to-
architecture engineering, but they would be open to consider it, and I could take it back to the team.
Okay.
Also, for the hours of operation, if the board so felt that they needed to restrict the hours to something.
Well,
that
I
talk
think
about-
our attorney has spoken clearly that 24 hours is allowed, so 24
Okay.
hours are
I
allowed.
was just.
We can't put that restriction on your
Okay.
client. Now, if your client would want to, that,
Yeah, and I'm transitioning from being a client to being this, so I can't do that.
okay. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner?
having listened to Mr. Kirk, I'm going to recommend approval to the Township Board for site plan No, we're not doing, no, just approval of the site plan?
Yep.
Yeah, we're not doing the SLU. Approval of site plan number 22-43, Crystal Capelli, Taco Bell of America LLC, located south of 26 mile west of Van Dyke for a restaurant with a drive-through. The applicant has met the standards in the zoning ordinance, including section 6.5, special land use. Nope, that's out. And must comply with all planning commission, department, and engineering comments listed in this review and mentioned at the meeting here this evening.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Turner, support by Casali. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
No.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Good luck. Next item is site plan PUD number 22-32, Tom Callis for Mar Lake Investment LLC. I'll ask this is a public hearing, and I'll ask the secretary to read the notice as published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for final approval of the following planned unit development. Applicant Tom Callis, Mar Lake Investments LLC, 31350 Telegraph Road, Suite 201, Bingham Farms, Michigan, 48025. Proposed use, Marketplace Apartments, part of Shelby Town Center. Planned unit development, location north of Hall Road, west of Hayes Road. Final site plan PUD number 22-32. Sidwell number 23-07-36-400-091. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, Michigan, 586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the planned unit development application. The planned unit development application and site plan may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair. Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published on February 22nd, 2023 in the Shelby Utica News. There were 325 property owners and one applicant were notified by first-class mail on February 21st, 2023.
Thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you. Can you explain the uses under the present zoning and if this special land use request is appropriate to the district? Although, actually, this is kind of a unique circumstance, so
Correct. It's
continuation of a long-lasting, right? PUD, yeah.
It's a C5 district, it's a multi-use, and it's exactly what it says it is. Hotels, offices, retail, townhouses, apartments.
So we're really here because we're amending the PUD, and so that's why we have to go through the special land use process, not so much approving the use that they are proposing. That's allowed within the district, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Process will be as follows. The petitioner will come up, a representative, state what they're requesting, the reasons for it. I'll then bring it back to the board. We'll ask any questions or have comments to the petitioner. I'll then open up for the public hearing. Anyone is free to, like you saw earlier, offer a comment, ask a question. I will record those and then bring the petitioner up to answer those. With that, name and address, anyone that talks, name, address, and then sign in after.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tom Callis, members of the Planning Commission. My address is 31350 Telegraph Road, Suite 201. That's Bingham Farms, Michigan. With me this evening also is the developer and builder in case you have any questions that I cannot answer. We are here seeking recommendation for site plan approval under the current zoning, which is C5, multi-use. We are requesting multifamily apartments. We are a permitted use under the C5 zoning district. We're not asking for any type of special land use approvals. The site consists of approximately 4.77 acres. It's in the Shelby Marketplace, or Town Center Development, if you call it, over across from Lakeside Mall, on Market Street and Lakeside Boulevard. We're on the south, or the southeast corner. We are proposing 167 total multifamily units. 59 will be one-bedroom units, and 108 will be two-bedroom units. Again, as I indicated, the current zoning allows for our use. We did submit a site plan, very detailed, with elevations, floor plans, landscaping. We did have two internal reviews with the planning department and modified the plans accordingly to meet the requirements. I believe the recommendation is, in fact, that we do meet the requirements of the district. This is a building that will be 6 stories, 71 feet in height, under C5. 200 feet maximum is permitted, so we're well within that requirement. The total building will be approximately 167,000 square feet. There was a recent, I believe a few years ago, there was approval for the southwest corner of Lakeside and Market for another multifamily building, 6 stories, but that's, I believe, senior or elderly housing. This will be regular apartment type units for the open to the general public. We would ask for a recommendation tonight from the Planning Commission to allow us to proceed to the Township Board to secure approval of this site plan and proceed with submitting engineering after that and hopefully building this development and getting to it as quickly as possible. Any questions, again, I'll answer to the best of my ability. We do have the developer and builder here also. And with that being said, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. In terms of process to the planner, this is this is the preliminary review, correct?
Correct,
Or
the
is it- are we
preliminary PUD. It comes in, the PUD process is a two-part process. The first one is a preliminary PUD, and the second one is a final process. The first one is just the board to get familiar with the project and,
So
you know,
conceptually,
determine if it's.
conceptually,
Conceptually, if it
right.
has merit, and then it goes to the township board. And if it does, the board does determine it has merit, it goes to the township board, and then the applicant is allowed to submit a final PUD plan.
Okay, great, thank you. In terms of the use, I mean, this was designed, as part of the broader, forever ago, even it predated me. I think Mr. Turner was on the board, was got to be 25 years or so, back when this thing started. I think most folks thought it'd be a little farther along than it is now, but it's nice that it's moving. To have that density, because the whole idea was to create a more dense, which the township really doesn't have. Frankly, the only issue I have, and I've had this issue forever, and I tried to address it many times, because I've only been on this board about 20 years, is the traffic. And is that intersection there is just has been poorly engineered, and no one has addressed how to improve it. One, Market Street's a private road, and it's in terrible shape, and no one will take ownership, and I know there has always been movement to somehow to address that yet, and I know there's still things negotiated, but frankly, right now, we have you here, and we need to I need to have some kind of commitment or understanding of what are you guys gonna do to help solve that problem, because that gets, your development gets built, across the street gets built, a bad situation just becomes a nightmare without any, that T at Lakeside and Market. I had proposed, and I'd had the director of roads and our former planner in my office with the map, putting a traffic circle overlaid on there, and it sort of went away. And I know now that the development to the condo development to the north presents a bit of a problem to do that, but I really would want someone to take a hard look at, because traffic signals and those don't really work. I mean, I think a traffic circle, especially given the flows of traffic that go in and out of that, seem to make sense. I don't know, and I know that were they Department of Roads now? Is that what they are? Yeah, not commission. The Department of Roads has looked at it, and I don't know that they've offered any comments, which is a little disappointing. And maybe we need to reach out to them to say, because are you, and whether to the developer, or if you can speak to it, are you comfortable, with the traffic and the impact that's going to have on your ability even to rent those apartments if folks can't get to them or it pisses them off, try to get in and out of there on a daily basis.
Well, Market Street, as you indicated, is a private road under the jurisdiction of the association. Now, as you know, these plans, agreements go back to, I think, 1996, when this project was first proposed. So we have no objection to sitting down with other members of that association. And if Market Street needs repairs, which I'm informed it does, we have no objection to participating with other co-owners of that road to make those repairs or modifications. As far as the actual traffic, I believe the bulk on Lakeside Drive, we did submit a traffic impact statement, and that road is under the jurisdiction of Macomb County, and my client can speak, but my understanding is they're going to sit down with the Macomb County roads and look at, what can be done as far as, the traffic situation on that road, because it's under their jurisdiction, and I'm sure they'll probably have some suggestions or requirements as to that road.
Okay. To the board, any comments or questions? Mr. Turner.
I would concur with you on the traffic. Market Street is a mess, and now we're going to add the apartments, including the one to your west, possibly one day, onto a two-lane connector road between Hayes and Shaner, and Market Street being a private road. That's just going to be a mess. So I would encourage you and whoever else to sit down, because it would benefit, as Mr. Moffett said, it would benefit you.
Sure.
Trying to rent those apartments if people can get to them rather than sitting in that mess.
Yeah.
Which is only going to get worse.
Right. And again, there's other users. Hopefully we
Well,
can get them
correct.
to participate and share the cost.
Right. That's why I said encourage you to, as you've said, sit down. That would be a start.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is going to be the tallest building in the township. 6 stories?
I don't know. Is it? Yes. Yes.
Well, there was one approved for the southwest corner also, and it is permitted under C5, which is what it's zoned. So, actually, it's a lot shorter than potentially what could be built there. So,
Right, you quoted 200 feet.
yeah, 200 feet is a maximum. We're at 71.2 feet, I think, which is a third, roughly a little less than a third of the maximum height. So,
It's got a pool that'll be used maybe 2 months out of the year, right?
Indoor, outdoor.
Ms. Caselli, did you have a question?
Just to reiterate, I guess, with our attorney, we're amending the PUD.
It's a portion
of. That portion of it, there's a change in that portion of it, so we're treating it like an amendment.
So really, we have under the C5, everything is allowable that the petitioner is bringing forward to us today.
That's correct.
Is the, maybe to Ms. Misich, the engineering comments that under the C5 district, the maximum lot coverage is 75%, and they're proposing to cover 95% of the area. What could result if we, would that have to go to the zoning board if they wanted to exceed the 75%?
No, they meet all the requirements, so if I can back up a little bit,
Yeah.
I'll just kind of go through some
Okay.
of my comments. So being that this is a C5 zoning district, there's a number of sections of the zoning ordinance that we apply standards to in this section pertaining to if it's multiple family, then we would take the multiple family section and we would apply some multiple family standards in the review of this property as well. So like Mr. Callis explained, we went through 2 preliminary reviews. The site meets all the setback requirements, meets all the parking requirements, the height requirements within that district. So the only thing I did want to mention, though, is the recreation on the roof with the pool and the outdoor area is counted towards the calculation of the site, the recreation calculation of the site that's required for multiple family districts. So I would strongly encourage that happen because that is part of the approval of this requirement, that recreation be provided for the residents in that area. There is some ground level park areas in open space, but that does not fully meet, the ordinance. What were you going to say?
So with the pool on the roof, that does meet the requirements of the
For
ordinance?
the recreation, correct. Based on the units. So, like I said, I would strongly encourage that. If there's any reason that the site plan has to change and that portion be omitted, then of course, then they would have to provide that recreation and open space area on the ground somewhere.
Okay.
But like I said, as far as meeting all the ordinance requirements, since this is a PUD, if there is minor modification tweaks, this is where the Planning Commission has the opportunity to give that leeway.
Okay. Yeah, so just so we're clear that the traffic issues, is a concern, and like, when it comes back to us, those are things, again, we're not gonna tell you how to fix them. And
Right.
again, I would strongly encourage getting with the Department of Roads and including, township staff in those conversations.
Sure. So a couple of things, if I may add. The roof will have amenities of this building, swimming pool, the sitting area, restrooms. There's also a plaza area that you can see on the site plan on the south side of the building. That's open space also. The ordinance requirement has been met. Just a point of clarification, this plan was an overall, or development, I should say, an overall PUD, for lack of a better term, back in 1996. We're here seeking site plan approval. Now, I don't know if the way we look at it is site plan approval under an existing PUD. Is that how the townships looks at it also?
I believe we're
As
looking-
opposed to like a separate PUD. It's an existing PUD, we're coming in under site plan approval under that existing PUD that's already there, with a permitted use for this property. I just want to be clear so we all know what direction we're heading in.
We're at the first stage where we determine whether or not the plan has merit and the potential to meet the ordinance. It's an amendment, it's a change.
Okay,
Right.
that's fine.
So we're not approving any site plans today?
Well, I'm sorry?
We're not approving any site plans tonight?
No, you're approving,
We're gonna, there's the concept, and then we'll take it to the next step.
understood.
Cool. All right, any other comments?
Chairman, I'd like to address the traffic issue too, and just kind of give an update as far as, there's also been an easement, Lakeside Boulevard has a wider easement east of Market Street, and then there's a notch out on the property at the southwest corner as well. So I would imagine that there's, the traffic roundabout that you were talked about has been taken into consideration, and the north side of the site where the current apartments are, there is a landscaped area closer to Lakeside Boulevard, so providing the opportunity for a roundabout to be installed at some point in time. So it looks like they already considered that, the easements are in place for that, so.
So someone did listen,
Yeah.
maybe. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this special land use request. All remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. We are recommending body, and the Township Board will evaluate our recommendation and then make the final decision on this request. At this time, anyone is free to come up and ask any questions, offer a comment. Again, I would just need you to identify yourself with name and address, please. This is it.
Yeah.
So if you want to come up, yep. Thank you. I have that effect on people.
Yeah.
That's my wife.
Hot mic, eh? Good evening, Rick Comiskey, Oakwood Association, a nonprofit corporation which exists on the DeQuinder corridor next to the Macomb Trail. My personal address is 1951 Austin, which is also a part of the Oakwood condo development there.
Are you here to address what's proposed, these gentlemen are proposing?
No, it's different.
Okay, tell you what, there's another opportunity for you then, open.
Okay, because that's why I asked, was this the open floor?
Yeah, no, this is the public hearing for this proposed. I was gonna say, if you got a complaint, boy, you get a few miles. All right, fair enough. Does anyone wish to address what's being, the amendment that's being proposed to this evening? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board and ask the planner if she has any additional comments.
The only other comment that I would say is the applicant did submit a traffic study. However, it was missing some information per the traffic engineers for the township. So I would recommend that that traffic study be updated accordingly, according to the engineer's comments. And I believe Mr. Callis has a copy of those comments.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone have any final comments or questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you, Mr. Callis.
For your time.
So our recommendation this evening must be based on the following. Compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the special land use, compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use, protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of public access to the site. We may recommend approval, disapprove the request, or we can table it to evaluate the information further. Is there a motion? I think Mr. Turner's getting hoarse, so if there's anyone else,
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
I move to conclude and forward to the Township Board that this project has merit and potential to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance in place and authorize the submission of a final plan based on the comments from the Planning Commission, Department Site Plan, engineers' comments, and can I add Department of Roads or no? And the Macomb County Department of Roads.
Is there support to that motion?
Support.
Moved by Moore, support by Snyder. Any questions on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, before we, do we need to put in there, they need to update the traffic study addressing the engineer's comments?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Is that good with the motion maker?
Yes.
Good with the seconder?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hearing none other, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. See you in a couple months. Next item is Planning Director's Report.
Thank you, Chairman. Two items. The first one is the traffic study for Ryan Road and Auburn Road. At the last Township Board meeting, the board approved a study with MKSK and AEW as the traffic engineers to conduct a study for Ryan Road from Auburn Road to 23 Mile. We understand that there is still a lot of vacant land in that area, and we want to make sure that any site plans proposed for that area address the needs of the township, the businesses, and the residential district that's on the east side of Ryan Road. So hopefully by June, we should have the final study completed.
Excellent, thank you. Business from the floor. You got 3 minutes. Walk quick. No, I'm kidding.
Jerry?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you want to just go over the annual report real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You can sit up here.
He's not going to want to come up then again.
This is a method to my madness. Yeah. Okay.
Real quick, as part of the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, every year the Planning Department puts out an annual report. And this report identifies the amount of development that has occurred in the township in the past year. Last year, we processed 387 applications. This increased from the previous year of 368 in 2021. We've also completed administrative processes that would streamline departmental efficiencies in addition to administering the county community visioning, municipal development campus plan, the Blight Initiative, the CDBG projects, capital improvement plan, ordinance amendments, and we also, thanks to Nick, have expanded immensely on our GIS capabilities. So thank you, Nick, great job on that. But we've improved those capabilities internally and externally where most of the departments are able to look up zoning information pertaining to planning and also the public at large on our website. But That's it.
So the process is we recommend it, and then we send it to the board, and they ultimately approve it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the board, I was a little anxious to get this to the board before the planning commission, so.
So that's commentary,
my-
commentary of the high esteem that you hold this body?
Yeah, my apologies.
I told you,
Yeah, should've
depending
came to the planning
depending how
commission
well,
before the
how well
board,
this
but
went, whether I was gonna give her a hard time about that or not. Okay. Is there a motion to receive and file the planning director's report?
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I'm gonna give you 4 minutes now, because you've been so patient. No. Sir, if you name and address,
You want to do that again?
please.
Okay. Rick Comiskey, again, I'm the president of the Oakwood Condo Association located off DeQuinder Road and the Macomb Trail. My personal address is 1951 Austin Drive. Reason I'm coming down here tonight is to talk about the GLWA project, which is coming through our area. You know, in 2013, the Sunoco pipeline went through our area, and you guys were great. You had meetings here in this room, brought all the residents in, talked to us. We did have to listen to the ka-chug all night long for the boring machine from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Then you added the pedestrian trail crossing island out there where the trail is and DeQuinder Road is, which is really more of a fiasco now because you've made the road wider, and so we listen to all the yelling, the screaming, the brakes, the near misses, the rear end collisions, so great job. Then you did the Macomb Trail extension in front of our condo development. That was also a sweetheart deal. So we now pay to plow it when it's wider, and we pay to salt it for you guys too. So that's been great. Then in late 2019, 2020, the camera crews came and, you know, Hackle and Stathakis were down there at the cider mill. This is going to be great. This project's going to bring communities together. We're going to do all kinds of good things. We're going to put this giant 8-foot pipeline, not only all the way up to Quinder Road, but we're going to put it on your nature trail too, right behind your condo, and it's going to be fantastic. You're just going to love it. So we were contacted by Beam Longest and Neff, who's an appraisal firm, who went in to give us a temporary easement offer, gave us an appraisal. They're offering us $1,500 to take 2 feet off the front of our condo development and decimate our island too as well, and reduce the size of it so that they can accommodate the work crews and the expansion of the road and the installation of the pipe. So I talked to the guy from Jacobs. He came out with the lawyers from this firm, and I asked him, I said, how's this going to be? He told me, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a massive civil engineering project. We have to dig a 22-foot deep trench. It's about 12 feet wide. We have to pound in hundreds, maybe thousands of pilings that are 30 feet long, steel. So you take a high mass pile driver and you pound them down. That'll be just a few hundred feet from my house. So we're going to listen to this project probably for 2 to 3 years, okay? It's a major upset, and it's very disappointing that nobody from Shelby said a word to their taxpayers. We're having to fight Oakland County. We're having to fight the Water Authority, right? I don't think it's fair to us at all. I really don't. I've lived there 17 years. I bought into a nature trail. It's not going to be a nature trail anymore. You're going to decimate it, okay? If you haven't been down there to look at the project, you can't drive by it. Get out, walk it. Look at the width, look at the scale, look at the hardware. I'm an engineer. I work in structures. I worked in fluids. I worked in noise and vibration and acoustics. I spent the last 14 years working in optics and semiconductor. I'm not a dumb man. So this is going to be a serious, serious impact to our residents, some more than others. For the houses on the north side of the trail and for us on the south side of that trail, we're moving out. We will not be able to live with it. Walk down there and listen to the generators. We can hear them now. Come out in the morning, listen to the pile driver going. We can hear it. This isn't just digging up a drain ditch, right? It's not just putting in a sewer pipe. This is a massive civil engineering project. And we weren't notified by Shelby Township, not at all.
Okay, sir.
All right, it's not acceptable. So we're going to do what you guys did. We're going to not pay our taxes. We've bonded together with 3 or 4 neighborhoods in the area. We're not paying any taxes. We're just going to stop paying. And we're going to use your method that you used a couple years ago because you guys did the same thing.
Sir, hang on a
You
second.
bonded
Sir, hang
together
on a
with
second.
Sterling
Sir.
Heights, St. Clair Shores,
Sir.
and Macomb, and you said we're not paying GWLA.
Sir.
$54 million, you said, we're not paying because you didn't like what was going on. We're going to do the same
Sir,
thing.
you've exceeded your time, but let me just point out something. We're a volunteer body,
Yeah, I understand that.
absolutely nothing to do.
I get it. And I don't hold you guys completely responsible, but I'm going to say, somebody from a planning commission is not going to tell us that they're putting a pipe in our backyard,
We had nothing to do with putting the pipe in the backyard.
but you do. It's in Shelby Township.
So I guess you have it all figured out, so there's nothing I'm going to tell you that, to the contrary.
Yeah. So the pipe's going through Shelby and you have nothing to do with it.
Okay, so you've exceeded your 3 minutes, thank you.
No problem.
Does anyone else wish to comment? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Is there support?
Support.
All in favor?
Oh, wait.
Pardon?
Did you offer for everyone to speak?
All in favor?
Aye.
Remember to subscribe to the Shelby TV YouTube page and click the notification bell to get updates on all of the Shelby TV content.